What Happens in the Woods is a true crime podcast. We discuss events that are often violent in nature. Listeners' discretion is advised.
For hundreds of years, men and women have looked for a way to get ahead in life, cure illnesses, solve relationship woes, and even bring financial gain. They look in places for this information that aren't always truthful. We've all seen the tents popped up at a street fair or carnival with a sign out front of an outturned palm or a tarot card. For most people, having a psychic reading or their palm read is fun. There isn't much stock placed in the information given. But there are some people who have placed such faith in these mystical healers, it can border on foolishness. It is an industry that is ripe for scamming. In this episode, we're going to take a look at a female con artist who would go to any means to get what she wanted. She preyed on the elderly for financial gain, giving them false hope of companionship and mystical healing, all the while robbing them blind. But she got a little too greedy, and a simple plan to rob a military veteran ended with murder. When she was finally caught for the crimes, the web of lies came crashing down. Join us as we take a look at the devastation caused by the mysterious Lady Monica, a con woman in the Seattle area whose greed caused a tragic ending for all those involved. This is True Crime Podcast, What Happens in the Woods, with your host, Justin Bryce. Let's get started.
Happy Friday. We hope that everyone made it safely through another week. Hi, Bryce.
Hello.
I like to catch you off guard, make you speak.
Hi.
Hi. And then a special hello to a friend of ours that's with us for this episode. Hi, Tyler.
Hi.
So we have been trying to coordinate this, him and I, for, I don't know, months now.
Yeah. Seems like months.
Yeah. And we finally made it fucking happen.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited as hell.
I'm super excited. So this one's going to be a good one, I think. It's a good case to have you on.
I'm excited. I didn't want to know anything about it, so.
Yeah, no. Nobody knows nothing. As usual, I am the only one with the info. Which I'm going to tell you, like, that kind of gets daunting sometimes, to be honest, because I want to discuss this shit with somebody. And there's nobody to talk about it with until after the episode. So I literally am just holding all of this information in. And then I feel like I just like do a verbal diarrhea of all the information. And it's just like, here you go. I'm done.
Yeah. Cause like some of the stuff like that's talked about on this podcast is like really dark stuff. And I need to talk to somebody about it. I'd be like, yeah. I need to think. So.
Yeah, no, for sure. There are some of the things that have bothered me, but I do think too, though, that is nothing. When I really start to think about it, that's nothing compared to the people who lived it. Yeah. And I would never. My small discomfort at some of the discussion is minimal compared to that, and that's kind of what keeps me from overreacting to it, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or, you know, going off the deep end with it. I don't know. I'm right at home with serial killers. It seems to be. That's all we talk about. So yeah, I don't know what that says about me. That's okay.
You're supposed to be a detective?
Maybe I am. I don't know. Maybe in another life I was supposed to do something else. CSI. I don't know. So Tyler and I have been friends for, God, fucking forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been like almost 10 years.
Shit, has it really been that long?
Well, because I'll be 28 in January, and we went to Tahoe on my 21st, remember?
Right. So fuck, yeah.
We knew each other a couple years before that. So yeah, almost 10 maybe, I think.
Yeah, we're right around 9 now, I think. Yeah, you're right. Well, yay, happy anniversary almost. I don't know.
Oh, that night was fun. Wow.
Yeah. We always had fun times.
Do you remember we turned in so early?
I know, right? We were like, oh, okay, I guess we'll just go to bed now. Everybody was drunk and we were watching. Yeah. We're like, okay, yeah, it's bedtime. That's right. We watched 9 to 5. Right. Taking shots out of penis cups. It was good fun.
Yeah, but remember those guys they just bought us these weird shots at that weird bar?
Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah, and I was like, don't trust it. Don't trust it.
I didn't care. I just
no, you did.
Taken them.
I was like, yeah, it's fine. I'm good. I'm gonna sit back here and mama hen everybody.
Yeah. I don't remember getting back to the hotel. That's all. Yeah.
We got you back safe. It was all good.
I remember it was a really long drive, but
up that damn hill.
Yeah.
The adventures that we've had.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, 10 years. Wow.
Yeah, now I feel really old. Thanks, Tyler.
Listen, I'm about to hit 28. I told myself I'm going to stop at 25. Didn't work.
Yeah, you don't get to stop. That's not how that works.
Death Becomes Her, and I was inspired, and it didn't work. So now I'm a little upset about it.
Yeah, no. If you could find Isabella Rossellini somewhere with a vial of shiny goo, you go ahead. You let me know, okay? Help a girl out. All right. So holiday season is upon us. It's definitely a different vibe this year for everybody. Everybody's doing things a little bit differently, but hopefully the sentiment remains the same for you guys. We wish everybody well. Happy Hanukkah for our Jewish friends listening. That celebration ends tonight. Christmas is just a week away. Kwanzaa is going to start the day after that. It's a flurry of activity. But we hope no matter, how you guys celebrate this year, we hope that you guys are happy and healthy and safe. So we're, from our family to yours, just have a good holiday season and end of the year, and let's get the fuck out of 2020. Any updates for us, Bryce?
Yeah, I guess UK overtook the number one outside the United States. UK is number one.
That is a turn of events, man. Yeah. Australia has been up there for weeks now. Yeah. Right on. Well, thank you. I mean, we just thank you for everybody listening. So that's kind of cool. Anything else? No. Okay. All right. So a couple things I wanted to mention since we're talking about UK and Australia. There's going to be a special New Year's episode. I had been researching an episode that was relevant to Australia for a bonus episode that's coming out on January 1st. So it's already in the works. It's kind of a done deal. So sorry, UK, your turn may come another time, but so stay on the lookout for that. Also, there's going to be an announcement about that time, maybe on that episode, of some exciting things that are happening in the woods. So I'm not going to give away any information. You're going to have to be surprised.
I'm surprised.
We are wrapping up our second season soon. So this is episode 8. We've got 2 more after this. So January 22nd is the last of the season.
So far.
Oh, stop it, you big old whiner. From there, we're going to take a little bit of a break for a couple of weeks since Bryce is burnt out.
I didn't say burnt out.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know. You're making it sound like you just can't go on.
So far.
Never fear, though. We're not going to leave you hanging because What the Fuck Wednesdays will be back for a 6-week run. I've had so many people say, are there going to be What the Fuck Wednesdays?
Yeah.
Yeah. That seems to be like the most requested thing. So yes, there will be some What the Fuck Wednesdays. Yay. Oh, stop it. I'll have the girls come in and record it with me.
Yay.
Yeah. If you just set it up and leave it, I can record it. I can even edit it now.
Yay.
Yay. Hey, I did a good job.
Yes.
Yeah, whatever. All right. Are we ready to get into this case?
Let's do it.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So we're going back to 2007 when a Seattle woman by the name of Sylvia Sutton visits a street fair in what's known as the International District. Sylvia is kind of down on her luck. Things haven't been going well for her. She feels like she's kind of in a funk. And she's recently lost a close romantic relationship. She's very lonely. She's kind of disconnected from her family. And, just as an elderly person is just out there on her own. And she decides for whatever reason, she's going to go to the street fair. So there she is wandering the streets, and she sees a tent that's set up for palm reading. And she decides, why not? It's for fun, right? Just go on in. Yeah. Bryce is already shaking his head.
Never fun.
Why?
Fair.
Huh?
You had me at street fair.
Oh, street fair. So the problem is, little did she know just how her life was going to change from that one decision. So the woman in the tent welcomes her in, introduces herself as Lady Monica, and tells her to sit down. So Sylvia sits down. She shells out about $30, and she holds out her palm to the mysterious Lady Monica. Of all the names that you're going to pick, Lady Monica. I don't know. To me,
I want to know what he looked like.
Yeah, she ain't cute. Well, let me not be a bitch about it. She this woman is not a good woman, but I don't want to talk shit about somebody's appearance. So I'll show you a picture later, Tyler.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Lady Monica starts reading her palm, and what she learns is that she has this gray aura about her, is what she's told. And I'm guessing that's pretty bad. I don't really know much, but I have kind of heard that an aura should be colorful and, be vibrant. And the duller it is, the worse your soul or your spirit is or something. So I'm assuming the gray is it's absolutely no good, right? I don't know. Lady Monica, of course, tells her the good news is she can help her. It's all fixable. Have no fear. Lady Monica is going to save the day. We're going to get you fixed up. I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. And it's going to cost you some money.
Of course.
It's not cheap, but we're going to help you. So Sylvia, unfortunately, just kind of soaks it up. And it's just very distressing to me reading some of the things that happen, because to prey on somebody who's elderly, I don't know. There's just a special place in hell. It's like there's a special place in hell for child molesters. You prey on elderly people, you're an asshole of the worst kind to me.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So here's, just somebody listening to her, trying to help her get her life back on track. And this is a story that's much like countless others that we've all heard somebody go through. It's very unfortunate, but you just can't fucking trust people. And you cannot say, if everything comes with a cost, then you have to be aware of what the actual cost is, not just the financial cost. Yeah. And I think in this case, she was ready to shell out some money to be better. She just didn't really know that there was going to be a life cost to this. So sadly, Sylvia really got in deep with this gypsy woman, who was also known as Monica Marks.
Is that her real name?
No.
No, okay.
No. So by now you may have picked up, if you've listened to the last episode, we're kind of continuing on a theme of con man activity in the Seattle area. This time, however, our criminal mastermind is a woman. So a little bit different. Of course, here we believe in equal equality amongst criminals, and women are certainly capable of criminal activity. They certainly are capable of doing anything just as much of a man. And let me tell you, this woman was a very capable con artist for sure. So over a period of years, Monica continued to serve as Sylvia's personal psychic. She and other associates would frequently be involved in Sylvia's life, attempting to help her fix her gray, quote unquote, gray aura at a very deep financial cost, of course. And there's always a cost.
Yeah.
When Lady Monica's efforts are exhausted, she calls in the aid of this glorified man called Father Thomas. And these fees for his help go up even more. But according to Monica, he's the best. And he's got these special skills, and he will cleanse Sylvia's aura, and he's going to heal her. Just keep forking over the money.
Natural.
Yeah. But, I mean, even with all this extra help, she's not getting better. Nothing is getting better for her. In fact, at one point, she got worse and had a quote-unquote accident. Needed to be hospitalized for a head injury that she doesn't remember how she got. And Sylvia, at that point, she goes into rehab from the hospital. And after that, she becomes completely dependent on Monica for her advice, for her help, even her living situation. So she was being moved. And this is a classic con, part of like distract and, like keep somebody dazed and not guessing. They were moving her from residences every few months so that she was not in one place for too long. Yeah. And they would get her someplace situated, and then they would pack her up and move her with no explanation or warning, and she would just be gone. So she started to use Sylvia to gain access to other senior citizens to con, which was in part of why she was moving so much. And then Monica started directing Sylvia to take these pills before she went to bed. Who knows what the fuck they were.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah. It was to, quote, relax her and help her sleep. So throughout all of this, Monica and Father Thomas are scamming Sylvia out of what would amount to be well over $1 million.
Damn.
Wow. Yeah. Her whole entire life savings, essentially. So every few days, she was forking over between $8,000 to $9,000 in envelopes addressed to Father Thomas. Most months, it was about $20,000.
Damn.
Yeah.
What does this lady do for a living?
I'm not sure where she got her money, but she had been well set up with like investments and things.
Oh.
So
That's dangerous.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, senior citizen with money.
Right.
She wasn't married at all or anything before this?
She had probably at some point been married, but she had been in just kind of a relationship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like a relationship that had ended, and she was, right before this, she was like very sad that it ended, and it was pretty long term, but she was estranged from her family, so her kids didn't really have much to do with her. Lord knows how her marriage ended. I don't know if she was divorced or if the husband had died. But she was very much alone, and she was just very lonely. And these people really, really took advantage of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will add, she never actually met Father Thomas. Oh. So she never met him in person. He was just this mythical person who was praying for her healing. And she was paying him, but she never met him. She ended up selling her car, her condo, and she had stocks and shares in Microsoft that were worth quite a bit of money that she ended up selling to keep handing this money over. Yeah.
And she never met him?
She never met him.
He's probably a con too. Like he's made up probably.
So I'll get to that. They eventually think that he is somebody, but she just never met that person.
Oh.
Yeah. So everything literally that she had went to paying Lady Monica in this attempt to heal her aura. So 4 fucking years go by like this. And Sylvia eventually is going to run dry. I mean, the money's only going to last so long. She's elderly. She's retired. She is not in a position to make more money. And everything that she had is gone. In an interview that I watched, she says it felt like mind control. And I would say, yeah, absolutely. Especially if she's being drugged.
Yeah.
It was absolutely mind control. Sylvia went to Monica for everything, and she valued her as a friend and a confidant. Of course, Monica valued the money that was coming her way.
Yeah.
But when that cash stopped flowing, Sylvia was of no use. So in November of 2011, Sylvia says she went to get into her wallet and get her debit card out. And she found that her credit cards, any that she had left, her debit card and her ID were gone. Yeah. And it kind of was like an aha moment.
That was the aha moment?
Apparently, that's what it took. But you think about it, if she's being drugged.
Yeah.
I don't know how she had an aha moment. Let's put it that way.
I want to know what drug it was.
Yeah, I'd be very interested to know if it was like...
probably just tranquilizer.
I mean, it could have been anything, because anything could have an effect like that. I mean, she could have been given her seizure medication or mood-altering medication, for all I know. Or even, pain medication, like a hard narcotic to make her sleepy and drowsy and chemically dependent. Yeah, so it could have been, it literally could have been anything. And I mean, whatever she could get her hand on, who knows if it was the same thing every time either. It could have been multiple things. So what I'm thinking happened, and they kind of allude to it in some of the things that I watched and read, is that she had the aha moment because she was finally left alone. When they realized they couldn't get anything else out of her, they took her cards and her ID out of her wallet, and then she was kind of set on her own and just left. And so she probably came out of her drug-induced stupor and then, had an aha moment then. So she thinks, thankfully, to contact the Seattle police, and they put her in touch with a detective from the Elderly Exploitation Unit, which right? You laugh because it sounds like it's a fake thing. It's actually like, this is where they report like elder abuse and things like that.
Guess, yeah.
Yeah. But it sounds like something made up.
It does.
I'm not going to lie.
If a police officer walked up to me and said that, I'd be like, get the fuck out of here, dude.
And she's a detective. She's not just like a social worker. She's a fucking detective. Like, this is a police officer in her own right. And she works for this unit.
I just would have been like, yeah, get the fuck out of here. You might as well said I'm a traffic cop.
Like that job to somebody? Like, what do you do for a living? I would think it's made up too, but it actually makes total sense now that I think about it.
No, it totally does, because these are the people who, I mean, it's like children. There's children protective services.
Yeah.
You protect the most vulnerable in your society, and those people do deserve to have its own special unit to handle those and have those resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. I laughed too. I was like, the elderly, what? Yeah. But yeah, no, when you think about it, it does, you're right. It makes absolute sense.
Oh, yeah, I'm not making fun of the job, but I'm just saying if someone walked up and was like, yeah, I work for the Elderly Abuse Unit. Shut the
Exploitation.
Fuck up. Sorry.
Exploitation.
I just never heard of it before.
I hadn't either. Yeah, I hadn't either, but it is a real thing. So she files a report with that unit, and it unfortunately doesn't immediately resolve anything for her. They have it, and they're trying to show her pictures of people that have been accused of these crimes before, or are known people, known women, or anybody who's been known for this before, or who's been on their radar for this type of criminal activity. Mm-hmm. And she can't positively ID any of them. And she's not sure if it's because she was foggy during the time or what. She's super frustrated. The officer or the detective that actually handles her case at a couple of points said that she tried to close the case because she never thought that Sylvia would be able to ID anybody positively.
Yeah.
And where were they going to go with it if she couldn't do that? So she actually, the officer had no hope that it was going to get resolved either, which I can't imagine would be the easiest part of your job, to know that you can't help somebody.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's really sad. Sylvia just goes about and tries to rebuild her life. And, this Monica Marks is just gone. And doesn't seem like there's going to be anything that comes of it until police contact her in March of 2012 in regards to Monica. And Sylvia probably, this is between November and March. Yeah. After a little bit, you're going to start to think, it's fine. I'm going to start putting it out of my head and start getting on. And I'm sure when they contacted her that she probably had this brief feeling of hope that they had caught Monica and that she was going to get her money back. And she did not. But she really had no idea that it actually was going to get worse.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So at that point, Sylvia was living in a rented room. She was surviving off of a small retirement pension that she had and Social Security, which we all know is shit. Yeah. It's shit. I can't imagine, like I said, that she probably felt like this was going to get things back on track and her life was going to start turning around. The sad thing is there's no way that she realistically could have known like how bad it was going to get. So police contact her with information that a man by the name of Francis Patrick Fleming had been murdered at one of her previous residences, and that this crime involved the woman she knew as Monica Marks. Unfortunately, Sylvia was the link between them, and she would end up being crucial to tracking down the murderer and finding out the motive behind it. So she went from just being a victim to an accomplice, although they did recognize that she wasn't a willing accomplice or knowing accomplice. So she is not ever charged with anything, according to that. It was completely out of her awareness that any of this happened. So we will get into the real story of who Monica Marks is in a moment. For now, we're going to switch gears and talk about the murder from 2011, where on December 8th, 70-year-old Patrick Fleming was horribly killed in his apartment. Detectives are slow in getting, the pieces of evidence together. The connection to any suspect takes months to make. They've been giving information from several of the murder victims' neighbors to search for an ex-resident named Sylvia Sutton and her niece. Problem they run into, nobody can find Sylvia, and her niece Ann Sutton doesn't seem to exist. So Francis Fleming, or Patrick as he went because he preferred his middle name, was a well-liked resident of an assisted living apartment building in the Bitter Lake area of Seattle. It's called the Four Freedoms House. What kills me is it's not in the best part of town. So for anybody who is native to the area or knows Seattle, it's off Aurora Avenue, which is like the just hotbed of drug and prostitution activity, like crime. Yeah, it's a shitty area. If you know enough of Seattle, you don't catch yourself there after dark. Like you're gonna die. Like it's not a good area. Yeah. And this is where they chose to put an elderly person's home. I don't get it.
That was it before it became bad, or was it?
I think that area's kind of always consistently been bad. Yeah. And this is like a 300 person complex or 300 apartment. It's like assisted living, retirement home. Yeah.
It was probably cheap.
I'm assuming that's exactly what it was. It's cheap. It's cheap, and for elderly people who are on a limited income, that's the thing.
Oh, that's so sad.
It is really sad. Patrick was a very celebrated war hero, and he was a Navy veteran who had earned several medals and taken part in several combat missions over the course of his military career, something like over 200 combat missions that he had survived. And he ended up serving most of that during the Vietnam War. And he was he was a gunner on a river boat.
Oh.
And it was, right in the middle of activity. So for him to have survived that, he's pretty lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the night of December 8th, Patrick and a fellow female resident were in his apartment watching TV. It gets about to be about 6:45, and she realizes she needs to go back up to her apartment and take her medicine. And reluctantly, they ended the night. This was the last time that he was seen alive. There's going to be a couple of times where I make a side note because some shit just doesn't add up with the research.
Yeah.
So side note here, I read a couple of news articles that just state this was just a female who was a friend. But then I also read some articles and I watched 2 separate shows on Investigation Discovery where she was interviewed, and she states they were in a relationship and were going to get married.
Whoa.
Right. Pretty big difference.
Yeah.
And I'm more inclined to accept what she said in these interviews, but multiple news reports just listed her as a friend.
A friend.
Yeah. Which I think is very sad because she is quoted as saying that Patrick was the love of her life and that they were, about to be married. They were picking places to go on a honeymoon and that he made her the happiest she had ever been. And it's very sad to have that type of relationship downplayed and just you're a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I read a news article from something called the Coastline Pilot, which is now incorporated with the LA Times, that quotes a different woman as his wife, not ex-wife, but just wife.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely not this person who was a resident where he lived, but she ended up getting hold of Patrick's ashes and having the responsibility of having them to, taken to a final resting place.
Yeah.
So I don't know which is correct. Either way, I mention it to just show kind of how convoluted research can be.
Yeah.
And, if we don't always get things right, it's not intentional. Like when you're listening to a podcast and they get something wrong, it's not an intentional thing. It's just these are the contradictions that we find. So I'm glad that I saw the contradiction because I would have just moved right on ahead with saying she was a friend. Yeah. And I don't, if that's not true, I don't want to say that. So, yeah, but like I said, there's a couple of times where that's going to happen.
Was there anybody that at the home that would see them together that could confirm that they were more than just friends?
There may have been. I mean, I don't know that anybody was directly asked that. So I didn't really see that in any research, but it was kind of well known that they were seen a lot together.
Okay.
So I don't know that they were seen in a romantic capacity is the thing.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So I other than her direct quote of what their relationship was, nobody else directly comes out and says it. Even the police officers don't directly say, were you in a relationship with him or was this a romantic relationship?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's, I would think though that she's not going to get on a nationally televised show and make shit up.
I would hope not.
I don't know. I mean, people do shit all the time. So yeah. So depending upon your info, this woman gets back to her apartment and she goes to take her medication. She realizes she's out of orange juice, and that's normally what she would drink with her pills. So she calls down to Patrick to see if he can bring her some, and there's no answer. And she leaves a message on his answering machine. And after a while, when he doesn't call her back, she gets concerned. So around 9 p.m., she heads down to his apartment and she checks on him. She knocks on the door. She notices it's slightly open, and she says that she had her own special knock and she was waiting for him to reply with what he normally would say, and he doesn't. So she pushes the door open and she walks into the apartment. She's calling out for him and saying, "Hey, Patrick, why is the door open?" Because he was very, of course, being in the military.
Yeah.
He's very conscious of safety, and that is not something that he would have done. She goes into his apartment and she finds him laying on the floor. And she thought at first he was playing a joke on her, and she wasn't amused. And then she realizes as she gets closer that he's dead. And there's blood everywhere on the upper part of his body and obvious stab wounds to his neck, multiple stab wounds.
Wow.
Some of them visible, some of them not. She's in shock and she manages to call 911. And again, another side note, I found two different accounts in this regard. One states that she called from his apartment right then and there.
Yeah.
And another said that she went across the hall, knocked on a neighbor's door, and said there's something going on with Patrick, but this guy doesn't answer for whatever reason.
It's a great part of town. Everybody answers their door.
Yeah.
We probably had dementia or something too.
Oh.
No, I'll get to that. Yeah. That'll be another side note. So there's no answer. So then she takes the elevator to her apartment and calls. So I'm not sure which is accurate because, again, I found both. Yeah. I found both accounted for in reputable news sources. I'm not talking like this was People Magazine or some shit. So either way, police are called.
What?
What?
People Magazine's where I get all my information from. How dare you?
Well, I mean, if that's where you want to go.
How dare you?
That's true. It's true.
So Seattle Police and Emergency Services show up. It's just about 9 p.m. at this point. So the timeline is pretty tight. She left there about 6:45. They said goodnight.
Yeah. And
then before 9 p.m., she's down there. So, whoever did this had immediately did it almost after she left.
Waiting at his.
They may have been. And that is kind of my assumption too, is that they were waiting to see what was going on. So investigators, of course, he's pronounced dead. He's definitely deceased. Investigations quickly start on the crime scene, and they find that it's very brutal. It's evident that his apartment has been ransacked in just a couple of areas because everything else is very neat and orderly. They suspect that this was a burglary as well as a murder. There's a lot of blood, which they take samples of, and they gather some items for evidence. One in particular is a bloody handprint on a fabric-covered folding chair. And that blood is later confirmed to be an unidentified male, not matching Patrick's DNA or blood type. So they do have right away a piece of evidence. It's good evidence.
So there was a struggle. It wasn't just like he got attacked. He probably fought back.
No, he definitely fought back. They definitely see marks of a struggle that he fought back.
Well, I would say it's not like one person was stabbing another person. It was mutual, probably.
I'll get to that. You're always ahead of me. You always ask these questions and you're always ahead of me. So Patrick was stabbed so many times in the neck that he is almost decapitated.
Whoa.
Yeah. One thing I'll mention is that I saw a police evidence photo and they had the murder weapons. They photographed the murder weapons, and I say plural, but in none of my research does it mention how or where they were found. So I got a little frustrated with that because I wanted to know at what point did they find them and where did they find them? Yeah. Were they in the apartment? Were they out back by a dumpster? Were they on the street? Did they come up in another investigation somewhere? Where the fuck did these weapons come from?
Yeah.
I don't know. So they notice the defensive wounds on the body. They take swabs underneath his fingernails because they're assuming that, the defensive wounds are on his arm / marks. He fought back.
Yeah.
He was not trying to go down without a fight. Due to the brutal nature of the crime, there's a possibility someone from, the neighborhood came in and tried to rob him and it went wrong. They're not ruling that out, but just working the scene doesn't give them any leads as to who did this.
Yeah.
So with little to go on, detectives start with the basics. Witness statements. You gotta hit the streets. You gotta talk to the people. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to tell you what they learn. All right. Detectives begin to interview residents in regard to the death of Patrick Fleming, and they get some statements over the next few days. There are something like 300 residents in this retirement home. Somebody has to have seen something. I mean, right? You would assume.
Or heard something.
Right. So the first possible lead of a witness is actually some gossip that's spreading among the residents about the crime scene. And I don't know why I got a little, I just started giggling. I'm picturing these elderly people sitting around with their tea and some cookies and their hard candy. And they're just
it's those strawberry candies.
They got nothing. I was picturing butterscotch.
Yeah, I was going to say butterscotch.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But the strawberry candies, yes. My grandma always had those on her coffee table. She always had an assortment of hard candies.
I never knew where she got them. I can't find them. It's old people always have those candies.
Winco in the bulk food.
I've been searching my whole life for those.
Yeah, Winco in the bulk food section. I don't know where else to get them if you don't have a Winco, but that's where my grandma got them. Those, and they have butterscotch, and then they have the mints, the Brock mints, the green and white and red and white ones. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, she always has jars of candy, and I just don't understand. She has dentures. How do you eat it?
They just suck on it. They suck on it because it helps, dry mouth. Getting old sucks, Tyler. Okay, things happen.
Are you experiencing dry mouth?
No, I don't have dry mouth. No, I'm good. I'm good. I have water. I try to stay hydrated. Thank you. Thank you for being concerned, though.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I was picturing, all these people surrounded by just these weird palm trees in the background. I don't know. We're in Washington. There's no palm tree. I don't know. But I was just picturing all these old people sitting around talking about the little, tidbits of info going on in their little small community. And I'm like, yeah, this would have spread like crazy in a place like this if somebody was gossiping about the crime scene.
Yeah.
Turns out the gossip is coming from the neighbor across the hall, who apparently got a look at Patrick's body. So this neighbor was the one that the close friend had gone and knocked on his door, and he didn't answer. But he got a look at the body somehow. And the police are like, well, how the fuck did that happen? What were you doing? Did you have something to do with it? And this is again a little thing of information that just doesn't make sense to me. So the same resident got a look at 3 younger, quote unquote, women who had been in the hallway that evening. He says that it was 3 heavier set women dressed outrageously with wigs on. And he said it looked like cross-dressers or prostitutes.
Okay.
So they get off the elevator, and he found it pretty odd that they were just walking around. And I'm thinking, okay, this guy just wants to be the man of the hour.
Get his 15 minutes of fame.
Right. That's kind of what I'm thinking is he's the man on the scene, and he's got all of this information, and he's spreading it around so that he can get a little bit of attention. Because my thing that bothers me is that he seems to have several bits of information that's like key information.
Uh-huh.
Why didn't you report any of it? You didn't call 911. You saw the body.
He didn't tell anything?
Apparently, he did not come to the police with this information. He waited until they came to him. Right. But you were spreading the gossip.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah. So it's sketch. I don't understand. And then if you see somebody who looks like they don't belong there, this is an elderly person's residence. To get into this building, you have to be a family member of a resident. You should not be entering that people just can't come in and off the street and come and visit. They should not be able to, is the thing.
This is also a bad part of town, right?
Right. So if you saw 3 what you assume are cross-dressers, so men dressed as women, or even a bigger woman, they're obviously too young to live there. Mm-hmm. They're dressed in a way that you think is very outlandish.
Yeah.
And you don't call 911.
Yeah.
Why? Like, what the fuck is wrong with this dude?
And he can't be the only one that heard something, right?
Well, nobody ever says that they hear anything. That's another thing that bothers me. And I understand, again, this is an elderly person's residence. I don't know how well insulated these apartments are. I'm going to guess, though, not that well. And it's about 7, it's between 7 and I would say 8:30, let's say, where this murder takes place.
All right. So half were in bed, half can't hear.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So I'm like, maybe it's not that far-fetched that somebody didn't hear anything, but the fact that he saw something.
Yeah.
And then later on afterwards, after she's knocking on the door and you don't answer, you decide to go over and then see what's going on, and you see the body, you still don't call 911? It doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
Yeah. So I'm a little miffed at this guy. Like, I'd have some questions. Okay.
Does this guy have a name?
He does. Yeah. I don't usually name people who aren't directly involved. Yeah. I try to respect people's privacy if I can't talk to them directly, Yeah. Yeah.
I just wasn't sure if he was like in the news at all.
No, he was named. He definitely was named in some of the research that I found.
Okay.
So one thing that is reportedly mentioned when talking to the residents is that Patrick was in possession of a very expensive and extensive coin collection before his death. And he loved to show that off. And he talked about it all the time. It was said that he openly shared its value of between $50,000 and $60,000 with anybody.
Lord.
Yeah. He just kind of had it out. A lot of people told him that's not a good idea. Don't, why are you willingly sharing that?
Yeah.
And, at least keep it locked up in a safe or something, which he didn't. But he was so excited about it. It wasn't that he was bragging like, oh, look at what I have. He was so excited about it that it was something that he would discuss with anybody who would listen.
He's probably super proud of it,
Right. So police, after they get that information, they find that most of that collection is missing from his apartment.
Oh.
Yeah, the briefcase where it was kept is gone. So there's also mentioned by a few residents and even the close female friend or fiance that found him that Patrick had been pestered with attention by a former female resident. Mm. One person even went so far as to say stalker, which I don't know about that. But so this person ends up being none other than Sylvia Sutton, who is our friend that Lady Monica is scamming.
She's considered a stalker?
Yes.
Whoa.
Right. So she had moved out suddenly without notice. The female friend or the fiance had said she went to church one Sunday, came back from church, and Sylvia was being moved out. And nobody knew that it was happening. She was there and then she was gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Sylvia,
I guess this is part of the time when they were moving her around. Lady Monica was.
Yeah. Yeah. So Sylvia is described by residents as like a sweet and friendly woman. She's also described as very scatterbrained and spacey. She just kind of seemed disoriented, a little bit off, off kilter. Obviously, if she's being drugged.
I was going to say she's being drugged.
Yeah, they had no way of knowing that, though.
Yeah.
They didn't know that. By all accounts, Patrick and her were seen going to Starbucks frequently, or just sitting in the common area with friends. The female friend that could have been his fiance mentioned quite a few times that, the three of them would be together a lot.
Yeah.
And that Sylvia was just very kind of codependent and a little needy, and would need help like walking around. Again, she's being drugged.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is talk also that she constantly was calling Patrick, just being overall, like I said, needy. It's reported that she repeatedly asked him to borrow money. And actually, it kind of sounded like she asked multiple people to borrow money from them, saying that she needed help and she would get it back to them, but she needed help. And it's just very sad that nobody took any of this as more than her just being needy and obnoxious.
Yeah.
Nobody thought to ask her why. Like, why do you need money? What's going on with you? Are you, when's your last doctor's appointment? All people do is talk about their doctor's appointments and their ailments and stuff, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not to sound shitty about it, but like I don't want to sound shitty about it. Like I don't want to make light of it, because I know that when I called my grandmother, though, before she passed away, a lot of our conversation was, okay, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
And a lot of it revolved around her medical appointments or doctors or how she was feeling. And I think that's, again, it goes back to, they don't have anybody to discuss this with.
Yeah.
These are things that you would discuss with your spouse or with a really close family member. And if you're estranged from people that are, should be close to you in your life, you don't have anybody to discuss that with.
Yeah.
And it just, it comes off to people who don't have the time for it as obnoxious, as annoying. So it's just kind of sad that, she's in this environment with people who are her own age, and they are labeling her as spacey and annoying and a stalker. Yeah. I really feel, I don't want to say I pity her, but I do really feel for her situation, you know?
Yeah.
So another thing that residents claim is that Sylvia introduced Patrick to her niece, Anne, and that he had shown his expensive coin collection to the both of them. And then, like I said, one day Sylvia was just gone. So detectives take this info and they start looking into Sylvia and where to find her. She had moved out a little bit before his passing, his murder. And then she had kind of come to and filed her report in November of 2011. He was killed December of 2011. So just keep in mind, they don't know about her report yet.
Okay.
So they, start asking the apartment complex for information on Sylvia. There's no forwarding address. Her residence paperwork lists Anne Sutton as an emergency contact. Supposedly this is her niece. When they they try to call the phone number listed. It's no good. When they run a name search through the system, they find there is no such Anne Sutton related to a Sylvia Sutton matching that phone number because, they can look up phone numbers.
Yeah.
However, they do find a very recent report that Sylvia had filed with the Elderly Exploitations Unit in the Seattle PD on a person named Monica Marks. And, it's listed as having Monica, had scammed her out of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then at some point, they get in contact with her. They finally track Sylvia down. It takes them months, but they find her in March of 2012.
Okay.
Digging further, detectives find out that Monica is actually a gypsy con woman whose true identity is Brenda Nicholas. And this is her true name. We finally got to her true name.
Okay.
Yeah. Anne Sutton's a fake. Lady Monica Marks, they're aliases that she uses. Turns out that Brenda has a long history of scamming victims for money and a rap sheet across multiple states under different aliases. Up until this time, the Elderly Exploitations Unit had yet to get a positive ID on the woman that Sylvia said, had scammed her out of this money. Once they connected Monica Marks to Brenda Nicholas, they show her a picture and she immediately, yep, that's her. That is her. That is the lady that scammed me. And they have the connection.
Okay.
So this is kind of a huge lead for detectives because they are looking for this niece. And the niece turns out to be Brenda Nicholas. But the fact that they had male DNA found at the crime scene and it was not female means who else is involved?
Yeah.
They don't know. So they begin to look into the mysterious, magical Father Thomas.
Uh-huh.
And they kind of piece together. So Brenda was kind of like a well-known ringleader, for lack of a better term, of a local crime syndicate in Seattle.
Yeah.
She was actually currently in March of that year out on bail after being recently arrested with 4 other suspects on charges of robbery.
Oh.
Right. So they also found a criminal history from California where Brenda was charged with theft of an elderly man. She would take him out for milkshakes. And then it was found out that she would lace his milkshake with some medication, make him pliant, and then she would take him to an ATM and they'd withdraw some cash.
Sweet.
Yeah, she had a nice little thing going.
Productive.
Sounds very familiar though, right?
Yep.
So with her past charges against her, authorities know she's involved and they begin to look at her known accomplices to narrow their suspect list of who this unknown male is. So detectives know that Brenda is meeting with her parole officer coming up, and they are able to tail her after that. They, ID the people that are in the car with her. They run the plates. They trail her back to her where she's living at, and they, start putting her under 24-hour surveillance. Over the next few months, they notice that she's often in the company of just 2 men. So one being a man named Archie Marks, and he is considered to be her husband in their Romney culture, not necessarily known if they are legally married in the state of Washington or anywhere else. It's not known. But he is considered her husband. And then the other person is a gentleman by the name of Charles Youngbluth, who is just described as her driver. So he takes her wherever she needs to go.
I want to drive her.
I do too, right? Especially if he's, willing to commit murder. Like, what could we get somebody
I don't want
to
the
do?
murdery part.
No, I'm not saying.
I want the milkshake. I want the milkshake part.
Milkshake. Give us a milkshake. You want the drugs too?
NyQuil.
NyQuil? Ew, NyQuil milkshake?
It's better than whatever the hell they were giving her.
I mean, maybe, I guess. I don't know. Just that doesn't, it would have to be like a pepperminty milkshake, I think, to offset that alcoholic taste.
Okay.
You're like, I'm fine with that.
Peppermint bark milkshake with some NyQuil.
All right. Everybody knows what to get Tyler for Christmas now.
There's no problem at all.
There's no problem here. I see no issue.
Do I drink it out of the bottle? Maybe, but it's fine.
Okay. Do we need an intervention?
No, I'm actually going to buy 2 bottles after this, so don't you worry.
Okay. I wasn't going to intervene to get you more. I was intervening maybe to not get you some.
No, I'm okay.
Oh, okay. All right. I'll act like we didn't all hear that. It's fine.
Do a Dayquil too. It's fine. It knocked the cold out in a day. It's great.
I mean, it is helpful when used as medication when you are ill. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can't do the Z-Quil because I wake up like 3 hours later with the munchies from hell, and I so.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, okay.
It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's
fine.
Yes. All right. So between these two guys, this Charles and Archie, police narrow in on Archie because he's kind of a leader in their crime ring.
Yeah.
And they kind of, assume he's going to be their guy. And they set out to figure a way to get some DNA from him. They don't want to give it away that they've been trailing and doing surveillance.
Yeah.
So they notice that he often goes out to the back of the building to smoke. And this is where Brenda runs her palm reading business. And then they live in an apartment above it.
Yeah.
And this is in North Seattle. So they just wait for an opportunity. They notice, that he's out there just flicking his cigarette butts when he's done. And they manage to collect discarded cigarettes and are able to send it off to the lab for comparison of the DNA that was from the sample that was taken in Patrick Fleming's house from the crime scene. Meanwhile, Brenda gets arrested on over 50 counts of theft related to Sylvia's case. As well as charges of about $60,000 in loss of rent and theft between 3 different landlords. So they would get set up in an apartment or a house, not pay rent, get evicted, steal whatever they could steal. Some of these were like furnished places.
Yeah.
And then, get evicted and kicked out, but they would have stolen and sold hot property.
Yeah.
So U.S. Marshals actually end up arresting her using a Seattle PD warrant. This is on July 2nd of 2012. And while they're searching the residence, they come across a black briefcase that contains papers with Patrick Fleming's name on it. So they directly can link her to theft from his apartment, but they still can't directly link to the murder.
Okay.
So they bring in Charles. Meanwhile, they're just kind of covering all bases.
Yeah.
So Charles Youngbluth comes in, and they're just kind of attempting to get some information that he might have. He, at first, of course, he doesn't know nothing. Nobody ever knows anything.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah. He's denying everything. Police don't suspect that he's directly involved. They're just thinking he's driving her around. Maybe at some point he's overheard some conversations.
Yeah.
Maybe Sylvia was in the car and he overheard some conversations, maybe between Sylvia and Archie and Brenda. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's conversations there. And eventually he's like, yeah, I remember her talking about there's some coins laying around that she needed to get sold. some property, that needed to get sold. And he remembers that there was a conversation between her and Sylvia that she needed Sylvia to introduce her to this guy who had the coin collection. And, he's got some random bits of information that he seems to know from just overhearing these conversations. And then almost as an afterthought, the detective who was leading the interrogation questions Charles and says, "Hey, are you okay if we do a mouth swab?" And Charles is kind of like, "Yeah, no, sure, whatever." And it's just kind of for shits and giggles because even the police don't really think that it's going to amount to anything.
Yeah.
They got to cover their bases.
Yeah.
So now they have Archie's DNA. That's already on its way to the lab. Charles, his swab is on the way to the lab to run. They're going to compare it to the DNA found at the scene. And it takes a little while to get back. But Archie's comes back. It's not a match. He definitely was. If he was at that crime scene, he wasn't the one that left that handprint.
Okay.
Unexpectedly, the sample from Charles comes back. It's a match. He was directly there. So he knows more than he was letting on. He's not just there for conversation. Yeah. And it's funny because the police, when they're interviewed, they're like, "Yeah, this guy was a wimp. We never would have pictured him as anybody who would have committed this crime."
Always the quiet.
He was just, it is. You got to watch for these quiet ones.
Yeah.
So from there, it's just a matter of time to get the story. Charles gets picked up for a second interview. But like I said, this time they know he's there. He's involved. They tell him they know that he bled at the scene. He's like, "No, I don't know. There's no way. How would I have done that? I don't know what." And I mean, this guy is not, obviously, he is not a criminal mastermind by any means. He's,
yeah.
The second interview, I saw footage of it, and he's shirtless. I don't know where they picked him up from, but he got no shirt on. He's wearing some weird shorts and flip-flops or something. And it's not a good look. Let's just say that. And it's funny to watch the interview. I actually had a little bit of a giggle. But according to Charles, this is how everything went down. So Brenda had been plotting to get Patrick's coin collection since he had shown it to Sylvia and, quote, her niece. Turns out she was out of money. Sylvia didn't have any more, but Sylvia was still useful to introduce her to this guy. So Brenda tells Charles he's going to help her get these coins. And because he was in love with her, he says he didn't even question it. So not known if she returned his affection, but he would have done anything for her, essentially.
Okay.
Then they get another accomplice who is very odd, but this is definitely fits. She's also a victim of Brenda's. She has also been scammed by Brenda and been cut off from her family, much like a cult situation. She was stealing money from them, borrowing money from her family to give to Brenda. And it was kind of along the same lines as Sylvia's situation, where it started because of a palm reading. And this woman, whose name is Gilda Ramirez, she ended up becoming an accomplice. So she went from victim to accomplice.
Oh.
Yeah, but I equate it to a cult situation because you are then programmed to do whatever this person needs you to do.
Yeah.
Even though you have been their victim. It's cult-like, it's abusive. It's mental abuse. So she's the third person that rounds out this group. On the night of December 8th, the three get dressed up in these weird costumes with wigs that they went and bought at Goodwill. So they look hella crazy. They show up at Patrick's door with large kitchen knives, which are the murder weapons that they found. Gilda was the one that knocked. They're kind of thinking, since Patrick had never met her or seen her, that she should knock, give some bullshit story that she needed help in her apartment or she couldn't figure something out and could she come in and use his phone. they say that he didn't buy it. He was like, no, you're fine. You know, it should write itself or whatever. I think they were saying like she couldn't get her cable hooked up. And he was like, yeah, it's usually really good. Should fix itself in a minute. Just give it a minute. And he was trying to shut the door and get the fuck away from the door. And when Gilda's not able to get in, Brenda just from the back pushes everybody through. So she's pushing Charles, she's pushing Gilda through, you know, Patrick through his door. Everybody gets pushed into the apartment. From there, Brenda immediately begins stabbing at Patrick. But he is at first able to hold her off.
Yeah.
And that's where his defensive wounds come from. He has her in check. Then Charles realizes once he gets in the apartment and he kind of gets orientated, he comes to her aid and he shoves Patrick to the ground. Between the two of them, they start repeatedly stabbing him in the neck. Gilda, turns out, doesn't have a taste for violence. So with all the blood and the gore, she actually ends up running to the bathroom because she feels physically sick. But she sees everything go down. At one point, Brenda doesn't feel that Charles is attacking Patrick enough, so she stabs at him.
Oh,
okay.
And cuts his hand, basically saying, you're a fucking pussy. Why aren't you doing this more? Like, why aren't you doing more? Why am I doing all this work?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is how his bloody handprint ends up in the chair, on the chair. When Patrick is no longer breathing, Brenda then yells for Gilda to grab Patrick's military medals and the briefcase with the coins so they can book it out of there. Somehow, though, nobody's heard any of this. And the three make it out of the building without anyone noticing them.
Oh, of course.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
So with that confession, Charles Youngbluth is arrested, obviously.
Yeah.
When Gilda is brought in, she too, she's like, no, I don't know. I don't know. And then they're like, sorry, you're going to go down. You've been named. We already know you're an accomplice because she was one of the four that was arrested in that whole landlord scheme.
Oh.
So they already know that she's connected to Brenda. You can't deny it.
Yeah.
You're a known accomplice.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, fine. All right. And she literally backs up every bit of Charles' testimony. And then she also says that at some point later that night, some man, doesn't name him, burned all of their clothing that they had been wearing.
Right.
Right.
I got a guy for that too.
Right. Yeah, they had a guy. So
I just know this guy who'll burn my clothes for no reason.
I mean, sure, why not? Maybe people are pyromaniacs and they like that sort of thing.
I mean, whatever floats your boat.
It was obviously synthetic wear. It was club wear. It was the flames from that could be amazing, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wigs? Come on.
And wigs? Yeah. Sure. So in lieu of her testimony against Brenda and actually Charles as well, they both get lesser sentencing for testifying against Brenda.
Okay.
So something that bothered me here, another side note, there were, like I said, there was a lot of shit here that just, I was like, what the fuck? I find it hard to believe that there was no blood mentioned to have been found anywhere outside the apartment.
Yeah, I thought I was going to ask you that too. Like,
Right.
wouldn't there have been a trail of blood from
Right.
his hand, like going down? Or
Something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no mention in any of my research that they found blood outside of the crime scene. Going
But,
into the elevator, nothing.
The other thing too is like it could be in, what is it, old folks' home that they live at.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the hallways could be, you know, bleached or mopped. I don't know if they were carpeted, you know what I mean? But they could have, like most old folks' home, they you know, mop the floors every day. So
Yeah, but it wouldn't have happened at this point. Like somebody who would have come if it was not carpeted floor, somebody who would have been coming and cleaning would have gotten there before the police, because the police showed up. Remember, they only had maybe an hour and a half to do this.
Oh yeah.
So if somebody had found a bunch of blood, don't you think that somebody would have reported that and said, you know, reported that to some authority in the apartment building to find out who was injured? Or I just feel like it would have been reported if that was the case.
This whole complex sounds like just like a
Hella
like you said, like a
sketch.
cult. Like they're all in it.
was weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, I found that weird. Like, didn't they trail it on their shoes?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No blood on them to drop at all.
Right. I mean, this poor gentleman was stabbed multiple times, enough to partially decapitate him. The amount of blood that comes out of your neck, it would have been everywhere on them.
Yeah.
Right. I was very frustrated with the lack of that information. And they may have found it, and it just may not have been relevant.
Yeah.
And that's fine. These are just things in my mind that don't make sense. So I'm bringing it up because there's no mention of it. Another thing that I found odd was that Charles' bloody handprint, I mean, a full print of his hand was around the top of this chair. Mm-hmm. And there's no mention that the murder weapons had any fingerprints. But he obviously, I don't think anybody was wearing a glove.
Maybe they wiped them. They're like, let's leave them here, wipe them.
They may have. And again, it wasn't mentioned. So I'm not sure if any fingerprints were found or if they had taken some time to wipe down some things. But then I don't know. I feel like if you had taken that time to do that, you would have realized that there was blood on this chair that you touched that has your full fucking imprint of your hand on it. And wouldn't you have tried to do something with that? If you were taking the time to wipe things down.
Yeah.
I would look for anything that was blood, that was obvious. And it's a clear as day handprint around the top of this chair.
These are professional con men, not murderers.
I guess. They don't listen to podcasts.
No.
They'd only watch that Investigation Discovery, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they wore gloves. I don't know. I mean, she could have cut him through the glove. That's quite possible.
Yeah.
But his whole handprint, not just a part of his handprint. So he had blood on his entire hand, was visible. And I guess, like you said, they could have, I was kind of thinking about it, Brenda and Charles could have been doing a wipe down. And, Gilda was the one who was collecting all the shit. So maybe while she was doing that, they were wiping things down.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's possible. It's just, it seems that these things don't make sense to me. Yeah. And I would have liked more information. But here we are. So regardless of all of that, they have these people responsible for Patrick Fleming's murder and the fleecing of Sylvia Sutton. So Brenda's trial starts on November 8th, 2012. And that's 11 months after Patrick's murder took place.
Wow.
Naturally, she pled not guilty. And they charged her with first-degree murder charges. This was obviously planned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
You mean the wigs?
Right.
Natural. The clothes are natural.
Right. Yeah. Placing Sylvia, moving Sylvia. Yeah. Her defense team, they tried really hard to give some bullshit stories to soften her criminal behavior.
Yeah.
One was that she was just a product of her Romney upbringing, and she was raised to cheat and steal. Mm-hmm. And that's just what she knew.
All right.
The next was that she didn't know how to read. She was illiterate.
So then she wasn't
So she couldn't have been a murderer.
No, but then
because she couldn't read.
She's illiterate. Then how is she reading palms?
Right. How's she doing tarot card readings? How is she doing tarot card readings? How is she taking cash money from people? How is she functioning at all? Yeah. How is she renting houses and apartments and scamming landlords out of money? How the fuck does she function?
Yeah.
Right. I can understand there are people who are illiterate, and I don't want to make light of that. And I think that is a horrific thing that in this day and age should never happen. So if she is truly illiterate, maybe. But I don't understand.
There's too many facts against her.
There's too many things against her. Exactly.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense in her situation.
Yeah.
Given her age too, I'm really not sure. She's at this time like in her 40s.
Yeah.
So usually if you hear of people who are illiterate, they are elderly because they grew up in a time when going to school was not mandatory.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. The other thing was that she was in an abusive relationship and she was being told what to do. Right. Very, very easy to throw that one out there.
Well, that just none of the blame is on her. She's just pushing it to someone else.
Right. She's just a puppet. Yeah. She's being abused and manipulated just like she's abusing and manipulating other people. Yeah. Another one was that she was only doing all of this to help pay for her mother-in-law's cancer treatment.
Sad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's this thing called like Medicare, Medicaid, state insurance. And while it isn't always the best care, if somebody's going through cancer treatment, they're getting disability.
Yeah.
There are things in place in our society that help people who can't pay for their, medical treatment. And I'm not saying that they're wonderful and they're perfect, but they're there.
Yeah.
And there should have been no reason for you to be scamming people out of $1 million to pay for cancer treatment for 4 years.
Yeah.
Give me a fucking break.
No, that seems legit.
Now, since we know how much cancer treatment costs. Yeah. Regardless of what she said, to me, there's never a reason, obviously, to kill this person.
Yeah.
If you were just going to rob him, fine. But you could have restrained him between 3 people and stole from him. Maybe knocked him unconscious. You didn't need to go for the jugular.
Yeah.
You planned that murder.
She's illiterate. Don't assume things. She can't read.
God.
Yeah. I guess illiterate now means no conscience of who you hurt.
No morals. Yeah, nothing. Well,
yeah, no morals. It's fine.
Exactly.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
Maybe she just needs nice.
So, maybe she should have been taking those pills that she was giving Sylvia.
Just like the 3 times recommended dose of NyQuil.
Right. So with all her bullshit, it doesn't go very far. Gilda Ramirez, Charles Youngbooth, and Sylvia Sutton are among witnesses, and they had a few witnesses that testify against her. In the end, she is found guilty, and she's convicted of the charges, which actually include a plea deal that she had gone through prior to this for the charges related to Sylvia's case.
Okay.
So any guesses of how long she got it for jail time she was sentenced to?
God, I'm going to say 5 years. Oh, no. Is this including murder?
This is including the murder. Okay. So altogether.
Everything.
Yeah. So there was like over 50 counts of theft for Sylvia's charges. And then there was also the first degree murder. And then there was the charges of theft for the landlord schemes.
And are we taking into consideration the whole illiterate thing?
I don't know if the jury considered that or not. I don't know if that's part of the sentencing deal.
If there was like I feel bad for her kind of thing.
I don't think anybody felt bad for her.
I don't know, man. 15. Lie.
Okay, what's your guess?
120.
34 fucking years.
That's it?
That's it.
Fuck.
And apparently that is the max.
What?
Yeah.
How did they get at 34? Why did it just round it up?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I know that there is something called like what the fuck is that called? It's like a grading scale that they give for people who have previous charges.
Oh, like a good behavior scale?
Not necessarily good behavior, but just like their previous conviction. I can't think of the term, and I apologize. I'm gonna kick myself later because I should know this, but they kind of use that when they're looking at sentencing.
Yeah.
Yeah. 34 years she got, and she's eligible for parole in her 70s. So not good enough as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. No. So any guesses as to how long Gilda Ramirez was sentenced for? She didn't get a murder charge. Keep that in mind. She was charged with theft, and she was charged with possession of property.
She got probation.
Yeah.
Any guesses, Tyler?
I was going to say probation or like, max 10 years.
So she received 6.
Okay.
6 years. Like I said, she did not get charged with murder, the first degree murder, and she did receive a lesser sentencing for her testimony. Okay, and then Mr. Charles.
He got probation.
Yeah, I'm going to say probation.
No, he was charged with the first degree murder because they linked him with his own testimony. So he did get charged with the murder.
15.
Yeah, 10, 15.
22.
What the fuck? Okay.
I don't understand our mathematical system.
I mean, it is a mathematical equation because there is a range of years that they can pick from, and then it's based off of, that score that I can't remember the name of, and then any other circumstances as to how they received the information.
Yeah.
So in his case, and for testimony, he got something knocked off.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I absolutely find it ridiculous. All of their sentences.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Absolutely does not seem fair. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It is crazy. So as for Sylvia Sutton, she was awarded restitution, and she may have closure, that the person who scammed her is, for every fucking nickel that she had, was convicted, but she's never going to get that money back. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. Who the fuck is going to be in prison and be able to pay back $1.3 million while in prison? Nobody.
No one.
So I don't understand restitution for somebody who is essentially unable to pay it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very unfortunate that the punishment doesn't help bring justice to the crimes.
Yeah. It's
kind of bullshit to me. So yeah, that is the story of how the fleecing of Sylvia Sutton led to a connection and conviction of con woman Brenda Nicholas in the murder of Patrick Fleming.
That's just freaking crazy, dude. Like the whole story.
Yeah, it really, when I was looking at it at first, it just kind of seemed like because when you research this, like when you're looking at this, most of the media outlets and both of the shows that I watched and then any other information, it starts with Patrick's murder. It starts with his murder and it goes backwards to Sylvia's involvement and how she was victimized.
Yeah. And it's just like, it's almost like a cycle,
Yeah. So it didn't make sense for me to start it that way. It made sense to me to start with Sylvia
and
then work up to the murder. So I don't know. But yeah, if anybody researches this, typically it starts with talking about Patrick's murder and then works its way back to Sylvia's involvement and her connection and how they find it. And that's fine. I mean, that's interesting in itself. But when I was first looking at it, it didn't seem that interesting. And I say that weird, but I was like, I don't know. Could I discuss this on an episode? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, is this going to be a what the fuck quick story, or is this going to be an involved episode? And it at first did not seem like it would be more than a what the fuck.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was just a lot deeper involvement in it once you actually get into the story.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy because you called it a cult, and that's exactly what it sounds like,
Yeah, I mean, these people who she's victimizing are then turning into her accomplices, and then you've got the guy who's driving her around who's just in love with her and gonna commit murder.
Yeah, it's like a movie. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was like, what the fuck is this woman doing that she's got these hold on people?
Yeah,
outside of the drugging, because you got to start somewhere. I mean, she had to have some hypnotic, convincing power.
Yeah,
you can't just start right off by drugging people.
Yeah, I mean, because I would also be interested to know the conversation that took place between the two women about her actually getting her to take the drugs, or if it was just something where she didn't know she was taking them.
No, apparently she didn't know she was taking them. She was told, and she believed that this was something that between Lady Monica and Father Thomas that they were recommending that she take to help her sleep and help relax her. So she was taking them before she went to bed. Yeah. But again, she didn't even think to question what she was being given. How do we know that she wasn't on other medication for her health? And wouldn't she wonder if that would counteract any of that? Or I just,
it may have been like
you don't ever take a pill that somebody gives you.
It may have been a desperate, just anything that'll help.
Maybe. I think, really what it sounds like Sylvia needed was just a therapist and maybe some anxiety or antidepressant medication.
Yeah.
To be honest. And I obviously am not a medical professional in any way, but I can, like I said, I really feel for her in the way that, I understand that when you are feeling a certain way and you don't see that it's going to get better, you're looking for those connections with people and relationships with people that can help get you through the tough times. And when you don't have that, you fill it with things that can be very harmful.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Such as giving your money to somebody who you think is going to help you because they're listening to you and they're invested in you and you think that they're going to help you get better. And I can see how it would be easy for somebody in a situation to get conned like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate that some people, it's like our last episode, George Russell, he just had this knack for sitting down and, finding the people who he could bullshit and shell out the story for. So Brenda was right up there and had that gift to con.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it definitely is. Kind of a thing that I wanted to put out there for anyone who is so inclined. Researching this made me realize that there are just so many elderly people right now and people suffering from mental illness who are really isolated, especially right now. We're all on some form of isolation or lockdown. And, the holidays are hard for everybody already. So I was doing some research, and it's not too late to kind of reach out in your communities, wherever you are, and see if there's a way that you connect with somebody in need of companionship. It's not necessarily going to be person to person right now. It's not like you can go volunteer at your local senior citizen center. Yeah. But these are the people that actually appreciate cards and letters. And this is their preferred communication is, if you couldn't make a phone call, you could send a letter, and that's what they're used to. Technology is actually, some of them are very savvy and some of them are not. So it doesn't take but 5 minutes of your time to just write a nice card and send it to the senior citizen. It's not a hard thing to do, and it gives them some sort of connection. So, when you're thinking about Sylvia's case, I think that these are the people that if they had received some sort of connection, it might turn around their lives a little bit, just a little bit. So I found a few organizations with information just by doing a Google search. There are a couple that I'm going to post to social media, and I would, hope that anybody listening just kind of takes that to heart and thinks about doing that at some point. Maybe not now, but maybe you think about it at some point. These people just really need the connection right now.
Especially during Christmas cards,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's really not hard to you're sending Christmas cards out anyways to your family and friends. Mm-hmm. Send one to the senior center.
Yeah.
What's the big fucking deal? It's a stamp, write a little note. Even if you just invite anybody who would like to pen pal with you, you never know what that's going to mean to somebody.
Yeah. Cause like you were saying, like with this case, she had no family. So half of these people, their families just left them there.
Right. And, or, they've lost their family members or, it's even right now, you're not able to go and visit these people in person in some of these cases.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just the thought out there, I'm always trying to think of goodwill that can be spread. We talk about horrible things on this podcast, and I certainly get my fill of serial killers and murderers and scamming fucking awful people. And why not turn it around and do some good?
Yeah. I agree.
So just putting it out there. And like I said, I'm going to link to a couple things that I found that no matter where you live are things that you can do. But yeah. So I'm going to leave it on that. Thank you so much, Tyler, for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun, guys.
I hope you had fun. I know we're a little crazy.
It was, I learned some things. Like I didn't know about that division of protection elderly. I didn't know that. So but I mean,
no, it's gone to division. It's with the FBI. I mean, isn't there something with the FBI for fraud like that against elderly people?
I don't know.
Now we've just made it into this whole ass thing. I don't know.
We're gonna get a call, right?
Yeah. Did you want to tell people on your social media how they can connect with you if they want to?
Oh, yeah,
Get a little bit more of Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, I only have Instagram because I don't know how to work the other ones. But T James with 2 S's 13, that's my Instagram. So if you guys want to follow, go ahead. Nothing's really on there except for some bull crap, but yeah.
For any friends of the podcast who want to connect with Ty.
Yeah, I'm a Taylor Swift fan, so that's on there a lot. So
Oh my God, her new album.
What?
Her new album.
Oh yeah, you want to know what I did? I sat in this bed with headphones and candles and kept to myself all night.
It was a whole entire vibe.
Oh, you have no clue. It was great.
Yeah, no, I was listening to it last night while I was like finalizing things.
Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, I loved it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yes.
No, I'm pretty sure she's going to do a third one as like a trilogy.
Oh, really?
But yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Well, I'm here for it.
Yeah, me too.
Send it out. Me too. All right, guys. We want to again wish everyone happy and safe holidays as we wrap up 2020. Here's to getting shit back on track with 2021. Joining us with the Discord server, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time tonight. Make sure you join us for the bonus episode on January 1st. And until then, be kind to one another, especially this season. But above all else, people, stay out of the goddamn woods.
Stay out of the woods.
Nope.
Bye, guys.